The lie about the prostate is often that as we age, our sexual vitality is destined to simply vanish into the background of our lives. But as a physician who has spent decades studying the male reproductive system, I am here to tell you that your body is far more resilient than you have been led to believe. I'm Dear Emily Carter, and throughout my years of clinical practice, I have seen thousands of men who feel like they are losing a part of themselves because their bodies are no longer responding the way they did in their 20s. There is a deep, often unspoken anxiety that comes when things begin to falter in the bedroom, and many men immediately reach for a pill or assume they are just getting old. However, the truth is frequently much more subtle and, fortunately, much more within your control. Masturbation is often treated as a taboo subject or a shameful secret, yet in the medical community, we recognize it as one of the healthiest and most beneficial activities a man can engage in for his overall well-being. It serves as a vital tool for relieving stress, improving sleep quality through the release of oxytocin and endorphins, and even maintaining the health of the prostate gland by ensuring regular fluid turnover. But there is a hidden architecture to how this works, and if you do not understand the mechanics of your own arousal, you might be unintentionally sabotaging the very performance you are trying to preserve. You see, masturbation is not just a release, it is a form of training. Your brain is an incredibly powerful learning machine that operates through a process called neuroplasticity. This means that every single time you engage in solo play, you are literally carving out neurological pathways and teaching your body how to respond to sexual stimuli. You are conditioning your reflexes, setting your arousal triggers, and establishing the baseline for your stamina. Think of your sexual health like going to the gym. If you go to the gym and lift weights with perfect form, you build functional strength and protect your joints from injury. But if you train with sloppy form, rushing through your reps and using momentum instead of muscle, you develop bad habits that eventually lead to chronic pain and weakness. In the context of your sexual health, getting this training right means building a foundation of confidence, control, and lasting power. Getting it wrong, however, is often the secret reason why men find themselves going limp or finishing far too early when they are finally with a partner. Many of my patients come to me frustrated because they feel like they have lost their edge, unaware that their daily or weekly habits have created a blueprint for failure. We are going to peel back the layers on 3 very common but harmless-looking mistakes that act as silent saboteurs in the bedroom. These are behaviors that most men do not even think twice about, yet they are the primary drivers behind modern erectile struggles and performance anxiety. My goal today is to move past the embarrassment and look at the hard science of how your habits dictate your physical reality. By the end of our time together, you will not only understand why your body might be reacting in ways that frustrate you, but you will have a clear, actionable roadmap to rewire those responses. This is about more than just mechanics. It is about reclaiming the intimacy and the confidence that every man deserves to have, regardless of his age. We are about to embark on an essential journey of discovery that could fundamentally change the way you view your body and your health forever. Before we dive into the specific mistakes, I want to invite you to join our community here at ElderWell Living. If you find this information helpful, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps us reach more men who might be struggling in silence, and by sharing this video, you could be providing someone with the exact solution they have been searching for. We deal with the real issues that face middle-aged and elderly individuals with honesty and medical integrity. Now let us begin by looking at the first major hurdle, which is the way we handle the clock during our most private moments. The first and perhaps most pervasive mistake that many men make is what I often refer to as the 100-yard dash. In our fast-paced modern world, we have become accustomed to efficiency in every aspect of our lives, from fast food to instant messaging, and unfortunately, this mindset often bleeds into our most private moments. This is the habit of masturbating with one singular frantic goal in mind: to finish as quickly as possible. Often this behavior starts in youth due to a fear of being interrupted or a lack of private space, but as we age, it can settle into a thoughtless, mechanical habit that we carry well into our 50s, 60s, and beyond. You might feel that because you are alone, the speed does not matter, but your nervous system is paying very close attention. Every time you rush to the finish line in a matter of minutes or even seconds, you are utilizing that neuroplasticity we discussed to condition your body to do exactly that during every sexual encounter. You are quite literally training yourself for premature ejaculation. When you repeatedly engage in this high-velocity behavior, Your brain learns a very specific and damaging lesson, that sexual arousal and orgasm are supposed to be a rapid, explosive, and short-lived event. Your neurological pathways for arousal become fused with the reflex to ejaculate almost immediately upon reaching a certain threshold. Consequently, when you find yourself in the bedroom with a partner and you genuinely want to last longer and savor the intimacy, your body defaults to its training. It does exactly what you have taught it to do over hundreds or thousands of solo sessions. It finishes fast. This creates a devastating and vicious cycle for many of my patients. When you realize you are finishing sooner than you or your partner would like, you begin to worry about it. This worry creates performance anxiety, which is one of the single greatest psychological killers of a firm erection. The fear of not performing well or of disappointing a partner acts as a massive internal stressor that triggers the sympathetic nervous system, causing you to lose your erection entirely. In my clinical experience, many cases of erectile dysfunction in older men are not actually rooted in a failure of the plumbing, but rather in this psychological feedback loop that started with the simple mistake of rushing. You start with a habit of speed, which leads to premature ejaculation, which then fuels the anxiety that eventually leaves you limp. Breaking this cycle requires a conscious effort to shift your mindset from a sprint to a marathon. It requires discipline to set aside dedicated, private time where you know you will not be disturbed, allowing you to remove the external pressure of the clock. In these sessions, the goal must no longer be the destination of orgasm, but the exploration of the journey itself. This is where you begin the process of retraining your reflexes through a technique I call surfing the wave of arousal. To implement this, you must become hyper-aware of your own physical sensations. As you feel yourself building toward that point of no return, that specific moment right before ejaculation becomes inevitable, you must consciously slow down or stop entirely. You wait, breathe, and let the intensity of the sensation subside just a bit, and then you begin to build it back up again. By doing this repeatedly, you are teaching your brain and your body the vital skill of control. You are proving to your nervous system that you are the one in charge of your responses, not your primitive reflexes. This type of intentional training expands what we call the ejaculatory latency period. It widens the window of pleasure and desensitizes the panic response that often leads to finishing too early. Over time, this patience translates directly into the bedroom, replacing anxiety with a sense of calm mastery. You will find that when you are with a partner, you are no longer a slave to a clock you accidentally set years ago. Instead, you are present, focused, and capable of maintaining your arousal for as long as the moment requires. The second major mistake I encounter in my practice is the over-reliance on pornography, which I often describe to my patients as the junk food diet for the sexual brain. Just like a diet high in processed sugars and fats, pornography is hyper-stimulating, easily accessible, and provides an immediate rush of gratification, but it possesses zero nutritional value for your long-term sexual health. When you masturbate exclusively to digital media, you are exposing your delicate neurological pathways to a level of novelty and intensity that real life can simply never match. On a screen, you are presented with a constant stream of new partners, unrealistic body standards, and scripted scenarios designed to be as extreme as possible. This creates a profound physiological problem within the brain's dopamine system, which is responsible for your sense of pleasure, motivation, and arousal. Under the constant barrage of these hyperstimuli, your dopamine receptors become overwhelmed. Over time, the brain begins to protect itself by turning down the sensitivity of these receptors, meaning you need a bigger and more intense hit of visual novelty just to feel the same level of arousal you used to get from a simple thought or a touch. This process is known as desensitization. The tragic result of this biological shift is that your real-life partner, someone you love and are deeply attracted to, may no longer seem stimulating enough to maintain your physical response. You might find it increasingly difficult to achieve or maintain an erection with them because your brain has been conditioned to expect the unrealistic high-definition hyperstimulation of a glowing screen. This is a very real medical condition known as porn-induced erectile dysfunction or PIDE, and I am seeing it become incredibly common among men of all ages, including those in their golden years. I often use the analogy of a home-cooked gourmet meal versus a bucket of fried chicken and a gallon of soda. The junk food gives you a cheap, easy, and intense rush of salt and sugar, but the real nutritious meal is what actually nourishes your body and sustains your health over the long term. If you spend all your time eating junk food, Your palate loses the ability to appreciate the subtle, complex flavors of a healthy meal. Similarly, if you outsource your arousal to a screen, your brain loses the ability to generate its own internal spark. The solution I recommend to my patients is a digital detox. You must remember that the most powerful sexual organ you possess is the one located between your ears. You have to stop relying on external imagery and start re-engaging your own imagination. To begin this detox, I suggest a period of at least 30 days where you move away from visual media entirely. During your solo sessions, focus on past positive experiences or create new mental fantasies. Pay close attention to the physical sensations you are feeling in the moment rather than looking for a visual cue to tell you how to feel. At first, this will feel difficult, almost like you are trying to find your way in the dark because your brain is accustomed to the easy, high-intensity diet of digital stimulation. However, with consistent practice, you will begin to rewire your brain to be aroused by your own thoughts and the genuine, authentic connection you share with a partner. If you find the transition too abrupt, you can use erotic literature or audio podcasts as a stepping stone. These mediums engage your imagination and require your brain to build the images itself, avoiding the damaging visual desensitization caused by video content. By reclaiming your mental focus, you are restoring the natural bridge between your mind and your body, ensuring that when you are with your partner, you are fully present and responsive to the real-world beauty of the moment. The third major mistake that frequently lands men in my consultation room is the trap of monotony, which often manifests as a physical habit known in clinical circles as the death grip. This occurs when a man masturbates in the exact same way every single time, creating a rigid and unchanging routine for his body. This typically involves using the same hand, applying the same intense level of pressure, maintaining a constant speed, and often staying in the same physical position, such as lying face down on a mattress. While this consistency might feel efficient for reaching a climax, it is another profound example of how conditioning can work against your long-term sexual health. Your body is highly adaptive, and your penis is covered in delicate nerve endings that eventually become accustomed to a very specific and usually very intense type of stimulation. The problem here is a mismatch of physics and physiology. The pressure exerted by a tight manual grip, often combined with the friction of a body weight against a bed, creates a level of intensity that is far beyond what a human mouth or vagina can naturally provide. During partnered sex, the sensations are inherently softer, more varied, and less focused on raw friction. However, because you have trained your nerve endings to respond only to a 10 out of 10 level of intensity, anything less begins to feel like nothing at all. When you are with a partner, your brain registers the drop in intensity and essentially concludes that the stimulation is insufficient or incorrect based on the training it has received. As a result, even if you are mentally aroused and deeply in love with the person in front of you, your body may struggle to get hard, or more commonly, you might lose your erection right in the middle of the act. I have seen many men in their 60s assume this loss of sensation is a natural part of the aging process, but in many cases, it is simply a result of sensory desensitization. You have essentially built up a callus, not necessarily on the skin, but within the neurological response of the nerves. To fix this, you must become what I call a sensory explorer in your solo time. You need to break the monotonous loop and introduce a wide variety of sensations to your routine to broaden your body's responsiveness. The first step is to change the mechanics of your touch. If you have always used your dominant hand, start using your non-dominant hand. This small change forces your brain to pay more attention to the sensation because the movement is less automatic. Furthermore, I cannot overstate the importance of using a high-quality lubricant. Lubrication reduces the need for a tight, high-pressure grip and more closely mimics the natural environment of partnered intimacy. It allows you to focus on the glide and the subtle textures of the skin rather than raw force. You should also experiment with different positions. Try sitting in a chair, standing up, or lying on your back if you usually lie on your stomach. The goal of this variety is to teach your body to be responsive to a wide range of touches, pressures, and angles. By diversifying your solo sessions, you ensure that the transition to partnered sex is seamless because your body is no longer dependent on one single, extreme, and monotonous routine to function. You are essentially restoring the sensitivity of your nerve endings, allowing a pleasurable 8 out of 10 intensity to feel just as satisfying and effective as a 10 once did. Neurological restoration is the cornerstone of moving from a reactive body to a controlled one, And the most effective way to achieve this is through the practice of mindfulness combined with the art of arousal surfing. As we have discussed, your brain is the primary architect of your sexual response. If you have spent years or even decades practicing the 100-yard dash, your neural pathways are essentially wired for a quick, explosive release that ignores the vast middle ground of pleasure. To undo this, you must adopt a protocol that prioritizes the journey over the destination. This is not just a mental exercise, it is a physiological retraining session that targets the autonomic nervous system. The objective is to increase your threshold for stimulation so that high levels of excitement do not automatically trigger the ejection seat reflex. The implementation of arousal surfing requires you to set aside at least 20 to 30 minutes of uninterrupted time. During this session, you begin to stimulate yourself with the explicit intention of not reaching an orgasm. As you approach what we call the point of no return, that physiological threshold where ejaculation becomes an involuntary muscular contraction, you must stop all physical stimulation immediately. In this pause, focus intently on your breathing. Take deep, diaphragmatic breaths that signal to your nervous system that you are safe and in control. You will notice that as your heart rate slows, the intense urge to finish will gradually subside. Once you have regained a sense of calm and the intensity has dropped by about 50%, you begin again. By repeating this cycle of building up and backing off 3 or 4 times per session, you are literally rewiring your brain's relationship with arousal. You are teaching your body that it can exist in a high state of pleasure without having to immediately terminate that pleasure through ejaculation. This process expands your sexual stamina by creating a larger buffer zone between being turned on and being finished. Scientifically, this is known as habituation. You are habituating your nervous system to high-intensity sensations, which effectively raises the bar for what triggers the orgasm reflex. For men who have struggled with premature ejaculation or the performance anxiety that follows it, this practice is transformative. It replaces the frantic, out-of-control feeling of rushing with a sense of deliberate, mindful mastery. Furthermore, this practice helps to mitigate the psychological impact of the all-or-nothing mindset. Many men feel that if they are not racing toward a climax, they might lose their erection, which causes them to rush even more. Arousal surfing teaches you that an erection can ebb and flow without being lost entirely. It shows you that you can surf the waves of sensation, sometimes riding high and sometimes dipping lower, while still maintaining the overall integrity of the experience. This builds a profound level of confidence that you can carry into partnered sex. When you are with a partner and you feel that familiar surge of intensity that used to cause panic, you will now have the neurological tools to breathe through it, slow down, and remain present. You become the pilot of your own arousal rather than a passenger on a runaway train. This restoration of control is the key to longevity and satisfaction as you age, ensuring that your sexual experiences are defined by connection and duration rather than speed and stress. The digital detox protocol is more than just a temporary break from visual stimulation. It is a vital restorative process for the chemical balance of your brain. As we have discussed, the hyperstimulation provided by modern pornography acts as a junk food diet that desensitizes your dopamine receptors. To rebuild your mental imagery and restore your natural sexual response, you must initiate a structured period of abstinence from high-intensity digital media. I recommend a minimum of 30 to 60 days where you commit to zero consumption of video pornography. This time frame is essential because it allows the brain's neuroplasticity to work in your favor once again, slowly recalibrating your dopamine system to appreciate real-world stimuli. During this period, you are not necessarily abstaining from masturbation, but you are fundamentally changing the source of your arousal from an external screen to your internal imagination. Rebuilding your mental imagery is a skill that many men have unintentionally let atrophy over years of outsourcing their arousal to a device. In the beginning of your detox, you may find that your mind feels blank or that your thoughts are not strong enough to maintain an erection. This is a common withdrawal symptom of a brain that has been overstimulated. To combat this, I suggest a daily practice of visualization. Sit quietly for a few minutes each day and recall a past positive sexual encounter in vivid detail. Focus on the sensory aspects, the scent of your partner's skin, the sound of their breathing, the specific texture of the sheets, and the emotional connection you felt. By consciously rebuilding these mental scenarios, you are re-strengthening the neural bridge between your thoughts and your physical responses. For those who find the transition from high-definition video to pure imagination too jarring, I often recommend using erotic literature or audio-based narratives as a stepping stone. These formats require the brain to actively construct the imagery, which engages the prefrontal cortex rather than just the primitive reward centers. This active participation is key to reversing the passive consumption habits fostered by video porn. As you engage with text or audio, pay attention to how your body responds to the pacing of a story. This more gradual buildup of arousal is much more aligned with the reality of partnered intimacy than the immediate visual hit of a video. The final stage of the digital detox is the reintegration of mindfulness into your solo practice. Instead of looking for a visual cue to tell you when to be aroused, focus entirely on the physical sensations occurring in your body in real time. Notice the subtle shifts in your heartbeat and the sensation of your skin. By anchoring your arousal in your own physical reality and your own mental creativity, you are curing the root cause of porn-induced erectile dysfunction. You are essentially cleaning your palate so that the authentic, nuanced, and deeply nourishing experience of being with your partner becomes the ultimate 10 out of 10 experience once again. This protocol empowers you to be the source of your own vitality, ensuring that your sexual health is grounded in your own mind and body rather than a digital substitute. Sensory diversification is the practical antidote to the physical desensitization caused by repetitive habits, specifically targeting the recovery of nerve endings that have become unresponsive. To restore the natural sensitivity required for a fulfilling sex life, you must break the cycle of monotony by intentionally varying the physical inputs your body receives during solo play. In my clinical practice, I advise men to view their bodies not as machines with a single on switch, but as complex instruments capable of a wide range of frequencies. If you have conditioned yourself to respond only to a high-pressure, high-friction death grip, your first task is to soften your touch and resensitize the skin of the penis. This process starts with the conscious decision to use your non-dominant hand or even a different finger placement than what you have used for years. This simple change disrupts the autopilot mode of your brain, forcing it to process new and unfamiliar signals, which is the first step in neurological and physical reawakening. A crucial component of this sensory restoration is the introduction of a high-quality, water-based or silicone-based lubricant into your routine. Many men who have masturbated dry for decades have inadvertently created a situation where only extreme friction can trigger an orgasm. Lubricant changes the fundamental physics of the interaction, reducing the raw friction and allowing you to feel the subtle textures and temperature changes of the skin. By using lubricant, you can maintain an erection with a much lighter grip, which more closely mimics the natural environment of partnered intimacy. I recommend practicing with various levels of pressure, starting as lightly as possible and only increasing it as needed to maintain arousal, rather than starting at a 10 out of 10 intensity. This down-training of your sensitivity threshold ensures that the natural sensations of partnered sex will once again feel sufficient and deeply pleasurable. Furthermore, you must diversify the positions in which you practice. If you always masturbate lying face down or sitting in a specific chair, your body becomes dependent on those postural cues to function. Try standing up, lying on your back with your legs bent, or sitting on the edge of a bed. Each position changes the blood flow patterns and the way your muscles engage, which prevents your erection from being tied to a single, monotonous physical state. By becoming a sensory explorer, you are essentially proofing your performance against the variables of real-world intimacy. You are teaching your body to be responsive whether you are standing, lying down, or moving in different rhythms. This versatility is the hallmark of a confident and capable lover, as it removes the fear that a change in position or a slight decrease in friction will cause your erection to fail. Finally, I encourage you to explore the use of different materials or textures during your sessions. This could involve using a soft cloth, different types of lubricants, or even specialized solo training sleeves designed to mimic various sensations. The goal is to flood your nervous system with variety so that it never becomes locked into one specific sensation. When your body is used to responding to many different types of touch, the transition to being with a partner becomes seamless because your brain is no longer searching for a specific, missing piece of the puzzle. You are restoring the vibrant, multidimensional nature of your sexual response, ensuring that you remain sensitive, adaptable, and fully functional throughout the later stages of your life. This dedication to variety is not just about pleasure. It is a vital maintenance routine for your sexual health and longevity. The holistic path to sexual longevity is built upon the foundation of the habits we have discussed today, but it also requires a final shift in how you view the tools of intimacy, particularly the use of condoms. Many men in their middle and later years express a significant amount of anxiety regarding condoms, often citing a loss of physical sensation or the fear that the act of putting one on will cause them to lose their erection. This is a very common concern, but it is often rooted in the same lack of training we have addressed throughout this journey. If you only encounter a condom during the high-pressure moments of partnered sex, it becomes a symbol of interruption and potential failure. However, you can easily overcome this by incorporating condoms into your solo training sessions. Use your private time to get comfortable with the process, trying different brands, sizes, and textures such as ultra-thin or lubricated varieties to find exactly what works best for your body. By making the condom a familiar, low-stress part of your routine when you are alone, you eliminate the friction and the performance anxiety that often arises when you are with a partner. As we conclude this comprehensive guide, I want to remind you that masturbation is not a source of shame. It is your personal training ground. It is the space where you have the absolute freedom to slow down, explore your imagination, and diversify your physical responses. By avoiding the traps of rushing, digital hyperstimulation, and physical monotony, you are doing more than just preventing dysfunction. You are becoming a more present, confident, and capable lover. Remember the 3 keys we have established. Practice patience by turning the dash into a marathon. Use your own powerful imagination to fuel your desire. And embrace variety to keep your nerve endings sharp and responsive. These are the pillars of sexual health that will serve you well into your 70s, 80s, and beyond. Your journey toward reclaiming your vitality does not have to be a lonely one. I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Which of these 3 common mistakes resonates most with your own experience? Sharing your thoughts helps normalize these conversations and provides support for others in our community who may be facing similar challenges. If you found this medical breakdown valuable, please like the video and subscribe to ElderWell Living for more evidence-based advice on navigating your health as you age. It has been a privilege to share this knowledge with you today, and I look forward to continuing our journey toward better health together. In closing, I want you to take a deep breath and realize that you have the power to reshape your physical reality starting right now. Sexual health is not a static gift from our youth, but a living, breathing aspect of our well-being that we must cultivate with intention and care. Be patient with yourself as you implement these changes, and trust in your body's incredible ability to heal and adapt. You deserve a life of connection, confidence, and profound intimacy.